And welcome back, Studio 6A, alongside Ryan Renner, Phil Becerra. It's Listen Up, presented by Dempseys, Grille in Middletown, and Sportsland, your complete team outfitter. Ryan, another special day. I know yesterday we just got off the phone with Holly, and today, guess who it is? Larry Hitman Pryor on the phone.
Yeah, Larry Hitman Pryor. I'm really excited to interview him, too.
Well, without further ado, we'll see who's there. Larry, are you there?
Yes, I am here. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good, man. Hey, we want to just thank you before we get started on this interview. We want to thank you for joining us today, and it's a pleasure and certainly an honor to be talking to you here today on Listen Up.
And I thank y'all for having me, and it's an honor being on your show.
So, look, before we dive into it, to talk about your a little bit about your background, where you grew up and what led you into boxing?
So about a little bit where I grew up at, I was born down in the Washington, D.C. area. I was pretty much raised in the DMV area. As a younger teen, I moved out to Houston. That pretty much became my second home. But for me, where fighting started for me. I had to really look at that myself. But my first day of school, I got suspended for fighting. It's actually something that I'm born with, something that's instilled in me.
Right.
I started boxing at 8 years old.
Wow.
Literally hitting the gym, and that kind of took route from there, and it's been active in my life ever since.
Ever since, wow. So I tell you, and it's amazing the kind of the stats that you've had. I mean, I tell you, speaking to a professional boxer, I have to admit I never have done this before as far as a professional boxer. But to put things into perspective, especially nowadays, I tell you, we're going through some difficult times here with the virus and stuff. But for you to still continue, you told me that you have another fight coming up in November. I mean, is the preparation any different now that we're going through different circumstances, or is pretty much the same thing, getting prepared for a fight?
Well, prepping for a fight, it's always mentally and physically, it's always the same. For preparation, what's different with this corona is really finding the right work, finding the trust in people that's going to give you the right work.
Okay.
And sometimes you don't get work at all before a fight, which considerably may, mentally take from a fighter, because he may not know exactly where he's at. Right. Sparring for a fight. But other than that, with the pandemic and with boxing, it hasn't really slowed down too much within me. I still work out at home. I still go to the gym. I run. I still do all my physical and mental meditation that I do. So, I mean, for me, it hasn't slowed me down. I can't speak for the other fighters, but for me, I still work hard and I play hard.
Play hard, yeah. Well, I have to admit, and I'll let Ryan speak to you here in just a second. I have to admit, I wanted to talk about this. I've been absolutely dying to get on the phone with you, and again, it's a pleasure. But back before I met you, I don't know, I say a couple months ago, whenever it was, I met you. Actually, ran into you working out at the local gym here, and you had mentioned that the details in a fight, the way that you fight, you talked about how important it is to maybe save that energy towards the end. I mean, you know what I mean? You really want to tire out your opponent, and you mentioned to me you're not so tired there at the end, and you might be able to put a good hitting on it for that knockout.
Yeah, well, it's always a strategy for boxing. You always got to go in there with a game plan from A to Z.
Right.
Some fighters only go in there with one game plan A, and then if it doesn't work for them, then they're all over the place.
Right.
And for me, what I was telling you, you always have to go in there for the game plan. So it's very, very, very important to listen to your team, listen to your coaches, and pay a deep detail to what your coaches are telling you, because they've been watching tapes of him. They've been studying him. Even if you had studied him as a fighter, you will see some things, but he's not going to fight you the same.
Right.
So, from open bail, you got to learn how to read his energy and read how he comes off of you and start capping off his mistakes early to be able to have a strong finish. You want to be able to break them down mentally and physically early and then finish strong.
Right. And you've been in this, how long now? You said you've been fighting about 20-some years?
25 years now, and it's been 15 as a professional.
Wow, and I'll tell you, that's incredible considering the amount of hits that a boxer takes in that ring, and to keep to not only physically but to talk about how mentally that you have to keep yourself in shape physically and mentally.
Mental is, the fighting part's easy. I always tell people the fighting part's easy. It's a training you really got to overcome.
Right.
It is a lot. But you really got to want it. You really got to love it.
Right.
In order to overcome such a great variable as what boxing is. It'll take a lot out of you. I done seen a lot of guys fold and say, hey, I don't want to do this no more.
Uh-huh.
And they have the energy, and then you see the ones that says, hey, nothing's going to stop me. I'm one of them.
Right.
I don't believe in no excuses. I don't allow nothing to stop me. It's just what's meant for me to be doing in life, which is boxing. And I'm very thankful and blessed to be in the craft.
Your true calling, your true passion. That's why we respect you so much. Again, you're listening to Listen Up. It's Larry Hitman Pryor here, presented by Dempseys and Sportsland. I'll turn you over to Ryan.
Now, you talked a little bit about your background. So, did you have any family members that were boxers, or is boxing always something that you wanted to do since you were a little kid?
Well, Ryan, with that said and done, learned a little bit of history about my daddy when he was younger. My daddy was actually, he's been an athlete all his life. He played football, basketball, he ran track, he played soccer. And he also was known as a fighter, but not necessarily in the ring. And then my granddaddy, that was in the Navy, he went to World War II. He was a Golden Glove champion on a Navy ship.
Wow.
So for me to get to boxing, it's kind of already instilled in me. It was something I was born with. And I'm very thankful to be the first of my family to carry it out.
Yeah. So how does it work? I mean, do you start boxing in high school, or what was your first big break? Like how did you become known as a really good boxer?
Traveling, fighting in a lot of tournaments. You're always being tested in boxing, and you always got to continuously to prove yourself in boxing. And I've been doing just that throughout these course of the years. Even at 39, I don't feel 39 at all. I'm still young. I still feel like I'm 25, 27. Even competing with the younger guys, I still show that my youth is still with me.
It's amazing.
And pretty much with boxing, what really gave me recognition on being a good fighter, I beat a guy back in 2011, a guy named Mark Tucker. He was actually from Carroll County. I was living in Houston at the time. The Federal Fight Club was actually up and running at the time. I come up here from Houston and train for that fight. I knew the owner, Jason. And we got to training for that fight, and this guy, he hasn't never fought nobody. He had a great record. He was signed with Lou DiBella. He signed a $250,000 contract, I think 2 or 3 weeks before the fight.
Wow.
He was a national light heavyweight champion. And once again, he was a left-handed fighter. He was like saying, hey, I'm going to take you out. It was a big controversy in the paper about me and him. It was a whole lot of talk. But it came down to fight night. Of course, later, Hitman Pryor showed up, and I took victory, and I became ranked 7th in the world. He didn't put his belt on the line, but my recognition really started there. And then back in 2009, when I had my debut as a prize fighter in Madison Square Garden.
And that must be tough. I mean, leading up to the fight, you talk about how mentally the preparation is more tough than actually fighting. So how do you prepare mentally before a fight and kind of set aside what some of the media and what goes around in the news? How do you put that aside and really focus on your opponent?
You just can't ever lose focus or sight of your opponent. The minute you do is the minute that you lose focus on him, and then if you lose focus on him when going into that fight with an unfocused mind, it could be a long night for you. But you gotta keep that. It's kind of like you gotta fight with it sometimes, because and as well, I'm sure you know as well, Ryan. Us as fighters, we kind of put ourselves from the world when we're training for a fight.
Right.
We segregate ourselves. We're not around nobody. It's for reasons on that, so you can stay focused and so you can have all your opponent's moves and you got his number for the night when you by the time you get there. And it's really got a lot to do with your team as well too, with your support. And like I said, your family. Can't live a double-sided life in boxing, and in order to be successful at it.
All right, Larry. So I was going over some, of course, doing some research here, trying to find some things on you before we came on the show. And again, thanks for calling in again to Studio 6A. But talk a little bit about. It looked like the News Post did an interview on you a couple of years back, actually 2016. How about your mom? I mean, talk about how much she's a push in life, and to help you succeed.
Yeah, my mother always been there from day one for me. Even as an amateur, she always supported me.
Right.
I'm not saying that my daddy hasn't. It's just my daddy lives way in Colorado.
Okay.
A little distancing kind of threw that off, but he always had long talks with me before fights.
Right.
And things of that nature kind of gave me the ambition to go out there.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother always been there. She's always been well off supportive with that. And with her daddy was the one that was actually the Golden Glove champion in the Navy back in the World War II. So she loves boxing. My mother, out of all people, and if I'm in an arena with 15 to 17,000, I still hear her voice.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, it's amazing because the only voice you're supposed to hear is your corner voice.
Right.
And so it's kind of amazing. It's a powerful thing. It's a blessed thing to have my mother there supporting me, and it's great. I just want to make her happy and make her a proud mom.
I tell you, and what? And I told Ryan, I said I had to bring this up to you while we were on the phone with you. The amount, I like to call it swagger. I mean, just straight swagger, and that's what we love about you, Larry Pryor. I was reading various articles in the newspaper, Larry, and it's just that style that you have. You say, I don't give a damn if he's an unbeaten fighter that I'm going up against. He said, I'm going in there and I'm going to knock him out. I mean, that's straight swagger, man. I mean, how does that? Because I mean, I understand you have to be confident, but I mean, that's not cockiness. I mean, that's a swagger, and that's what we love about Larry.
Well, to give everybody a short brief real quick too. 3 weeks ago, I had fought up in New Hampshire. This is my first fight since the pandemic. And it was crazy. I had a 35-second first-round knockout.
Damn.
And I told my coach in the room, in the hotel room, and he goes, hey, man, get that 35-second round knockout off your mind.
Right.
And I said, Coach, I'm going to do this. This is what it's going to be. But you got to be able to feel that in order to know that you're going to do that.
Right.
And these are the things that people say, hey, talk cheap, but, you got to understand when you're talking the talk, you got to know how to walk that walk.
Right.
And to walk that walk, then you got to put that in, and you got to believe and can't have no lack of confidence in yourself, not whatsoever.
Well, that's what.
If you do, then you're going to take for yourself, and it's not going to happen.
No, exactly, and that's why I bring up the fact that any young kids listening to this, I tell you, Larry Pryor, and it's not all about if you, it's not. We always hear the saying, Larry, it's not all about whether you get knocked down; it's whether you get up. So even if you get knocked out, I tell you, you still. That's why we respect you so much. You still, no matter win or lose, you still back your talk up. And some of the videos and highlights, Larry, that we've seen over the years of you fighting, I mean, Ryan and I were impressed. I mean, we looked at each other with our jaws dropping. I mean, the power that you have, it could be round 3, and the power still looks strong like it's round 1.
Correct. That's got to do with you being in shape, you being disciplined to your craft, and you can essentially put the work in. You work hard, you play hard, and if you don't work hard, then, like I said, it'd be a long night for you in there.
Right.
And you got to take it very, very, very serious. I tell a lot of these younger generational kids now, and even to my kids that plays basketball. I got 2 sons that play basketball. They're in Charlotte, North Carolina. I actually have a 14-year-old that's my height, 6'3".
Okay.
So I'm really on them, this younger generation, because a lot of them, what's different between the cloth that we're cut from and them is that our video games was actually outside playing the video game, to where them, they're in the house playing a video game. They're not putting enough focus into what they need to be doing.
Right.
And it kind of throws your focus off a little bit. So, when you put that work in, it all shows for what it's showing for right now, what it's showing for me.
Well, and that's why, when I spoke to you, before I even started watching boxing, and even, after I met you, I really started to tune in there. And it's just amazing if you can comment on the fact that, here I am growing up, and I'm sure a lot of other kids, the younger generation, that they think it's all about, how big your muscles are and this and that. And Larry, half of the time or more than half of the time, I see guys that are winning in the ring that are not as big, and they're beating the bigger guy in the ring.
Absolutely. That's the mental part of boxing, of what people don't really understand, of the mental part.
Right.
When you're believing and when you're thinking about it and saying, hey, the mental, you got to know it within yourself, for one, of who you are. You got to be very in tune with yourself.
Right.
To know who you are, to be able to say, hey, I can beat this dude, or this dude's going to give me a long night, or I may have to pull some tricks out the bag for the dude tonight to get over this guy. So you have to be completely honest with yourself, as one, as being a boxer. And two, you will face opponents that's faster, stronger, and
right.
bigger than you, or smaller than you. But how do you defeat them opponents? How do you mentally and physically defeat them?
Right.
Is to take the consideration of watching the movement. Boxing is very technical, so you have to know to read a fighter. You have to, first round, most first rounds, people say, hey, people that don't know boxing, they always come out and they look like they're tapping at each other in first round. It's not really tapping, it's what we call filling it out.
Oh, okay.
Learning my opponent. Seeing if I move to my right, how's his movement. If I move to my left, let me see how his movement. I could have watched 1,000,001 films on him, but he's not going to fight me the same because my style is different that he fought.
Right. So, and that goes to my next question. So, how for a lot of professional athletes, they spend as much time in the recording room or the taping room rather than they do working out. So, like for instance, NFL players watch a lot of tape. They have to study the game to be great. Is that something that boxers also focus on, is watching tape, or it's more of just working out?
It works for both in boxing.
Both.
I'm one of them gentlemen like Floyd. I really don't watch films. I'm not a dude that watch films because that gentleman's not going to fight me
right.
the same way that he fought the last 5 people, because my style is my style. I have a very unique style and one of the only style. Maybe similar to some,
right.
but I have my own style as everybody else does, and I know my style is a very close style to deal with. But it does help. Now, when you put your work in, it always helps. But you just can't. But you can't burn yourself out throughout the work when you're putting that work in.
Right.
So, which 9 times out of 10, the mental, you got to keep yourself humble. You got to keep yourself real relaxed and at peace at all times with a clear mind. Which meaning is life has to be good on the outside and the inside of the sport.
Yeah, and the inside. Yeah. Right. So the picture. I have to appreciate the picture you shared with us. You picked that was an awesome picture. I know Ryan, of course, you like that picture too.
Oh yeah.
That you chose to put up on our website, of course, to promote this interview today. But comment on the fact that, of course, you're not always the biggest guy in the ring, Larry, but I have to believe them long arms come in handy sometimes.
Oh, big time. Reach should always make a difference. The reach should always make a difference. Must and believe. And what I do typically when I'm fighting a shorter guy than myself or with a smaller reach,
right?
These guys have a thing of being a bulldog fighter, what we call bulls. A bull comes straight at you. They want to smother you. They want to pin you up against the wall and kind of go at you like that.
Yeah.
I dealt with that too. So throughout the course of the years of me boxing, I had to learn how to be an outside and an inside fighter,
right?
Which kind of gave me the ability to deal with guys like that when they do come my way.
Okay.
So it kind of messes them up mentally too when you're in the ring.
Right.
Because then they're getting hit with shots. They don't think power is on them shots, and then they're still getting hit with them shots, and they're like, hold up. How can I get out of this? But like I said, if you don't come with a game plan from A to Z, you only come with an A, then you're going to have a long night.
You're in trouble, right?
You're in trouble.
And you talked about the style of certain boxers, how some have a little bit of the same style, and some have a unique style. Do you have to develop any special moves, or I'm not trying to give away any of your special
Secrets.
moves or secrets.
Come
but,
on now.
how do you develop the special moves that your opponent might not see coming?
It's very, very, very important for you to read. You have to read while you're in there. Majority of the time when people fight from a street fight, it's just throwing your hands. With no thought. A lot of people black out and they lose train of thought of what they're doing. To where us as boxers, we always keep our train of thought. We're always thinking while we're in there, and we're always looking while we're in there. So we're able to see everything and anything that comes our way. And when you're able, if you know your abilities and you know you're faster than him, or if you hit harder than them, when you see opportunity open up, you take the opportunity and you capitalize on the opportunity, and you can have a great night. It could be a win-win situation for you. And as well, you also got to know what your opponent has, what his capabilities are. He could have a chin. Like I said, it could be hard to hit.
Right.
There was a guy named Greg Hackett that I fought from Philly. Record was completely shot. I think he won like 2 fights out of 20, something like that. It was just a builder. But he was a very slick boxer. Even from his record, you can't take his record and look at it and say, oh, it's an easy fight. Can't never take nothing for granted in the ring or any sport, on how they look or what the record is. Because like I said, you can find yourself in a situation you don't want to be in.
Right.
And fighting Greg had also fought Gerald Hurd from D.C. Gerald Hurd couldn't knock him out. Adonis Stevenson couldn't drop him. He fought Andre Ward. I was actually on the second guy in his lifetime and his career that put him on the canvas.
Wow, that's impressive.
Wow.
That let me know once again within myself that my power is true and it is what it is for my power. So I don't have no less thought about myself when it comes down to that.
For sure.
All right, so Larry, with only about 10 minutes left, again, we don't want to cut you short, but again, we appreciate you calling in. So I just want to touch on the back to that interview that you had for the News Post a couple years back. You said that, and I quote, you said, I have quickness. You said, I hit hard and I'm real awkward. And you said, I'm like a snake in the grass. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was you that quoted that. And you said that I'm sneaky. Is that kind of your quote that it kind of like Muhammad Ali had, about the butterfly quote? I mean,
well, pretty much as by me telling him, hey, I'm a snake in the grass. I'm real crafty. I'm very hard to hit.
right.
And by me making those comments to Tucker to let him know, hey, you never seen nobody like me. You never faced nobody like me before.
Right.
And once again, either you were humble or cocky at the time, and he was cocky. And
right.
he didn't take consideration on, hey, let me really look at this dude, or it could be like, oh, he made such and such miss punches, but he won't make me miss punches. It's a little cocky, arrogant attitude that he had. But as far as like Floyd said, the less you get hit, the longer you last. Mm-hmm. I really don't get hit like that. You're going to get hit in boxing. Don't get it messed up. You're going to get punched. You're going to get punched. You're going to get stunned. I have been dropped in the ring and sparring. Not hurt, not knocked out, not nothing like that. But being hit right on your chin, on the money is what we call it, on the money shot.
Right.
That nerve automatically takes your legs out. Regardless if it hurts you or not, it automatically takes your legs out. And that's important with sparring and things like that. So you can have the ability and to see where you at and how much power and what type of power shots you can take and what you can see and what you can't see. That's the importance of sparring and being in the gym
right.
and being in the
that, I tell you, true veteran. Again, we're on Listen Up talking to Larry Hitman Pryor. Hey, my cousin, he wanted to also, he's smiling over there. He knows we wanted to ask you this. Where the nickname Hitman, where did that come from?
Oh, man. So as an amateur, I always use my name, Larry Pryor. I wasn't one of the fighters. I had to say, hey, man, I was thinking, man, what can I call myself? I don't know what to call myself. Everybody got these names. And I said, I'm going to let the people name me. And when I let the people name me, Hitman actually, I was actually in a National Golden Glove, fighting in Houston.
Uh-huh.
And after the fight, I had a gentleman tell me, you fought like Tommy Hitman Hearns tonight, and we're going to call you the next Hitman of the sport.
Wow.
And
So
that's how I got that name.
okay. Then. So there, Ryan. There you have your answers. No,
Yeah.
no more guessing. He
So
told
they
you.
said I fought like Hitman Hearns as an amateur.
Hitman. There you go. That's more that swagger talking, huh?
There it goes.
There it goes. Hey, so just again, we're down about 5 minutes, Larry. But how about comment? I don't know if you're too, familiar with. He graduated from Urbana, right down the road here. He was Urbana grad.
Frederick High. I went to Frederick High School.
Frederick. Okay, but the gentleman who just made his UFC debut, he graduated from Urbana. It was Matt Selmesberger, I believe you pronounce his name. I'm not too sure if you're familiar with him or not.
I heard of him. I haven't met him yet.
You haven't met him yet? Okay, yeah. I was just it looks like he won his debut, so I was just seeing if you had any thought on him and how his future may pan out in the UFC debut.
Well, it's good. It's always good to go out there and win your debuts because
Right.
the promoters and you letting the people know of the sport. Hey, I'm serious. I'm really here to make money, and I'm really here to make a name,
Right.
a household name. And you gotta, and it's good, So just know when you after a win like that, they're always testing you, So a lot of guys they forget in the sport too, and they kind of get caught up in the fame and the money and the luxury part of the sport.
Yeah.
You can't let that interact with you like that. You got to control that and don't let it control you. And they're always testing you. So that next fight, even in UFC, it could be a little bit harder. It could be a little bit more easier. But it's got a lot to do with him putting his work in and continuously the work and making himself a better fighter than what he already is.
Better fighter, yeah. So again, that was Matt Selmesberger, and again, he graduated from Urbana. I tell you, Larry, it's been an honor to sit down and talk with you. And just a little side, I wanted to mention this also. Ryan and I have always wondering because again, we didn't watch a lot of boxing growing up, but on TV, when we're watching you all on TV, what's the message that obviously you can be drowning, it feels like in water. I mean, coming to over in the corner during a fight, you got they're patching your eyes up, you may be bleeding some from your face, your nose, your eyes, but what's I guess that's your coach there on the corner. What are the messages? What are they telling you? Because we can't hear that on TV at home. What are they telling you when they're wiping your face down and when you're taking a break?
Got to do with they pretty much give you instructions on if you're doing everything right or if you're doing things in an improper way or if they see something that you may not see.
Okay.
Your corner man, remember me mentioning to you of if I was in an arena with 15,000, I still heard my mother, and the only people I was supposed to hear was my corner man.
Right.
That's how they train us. The only reason you only supposed to hear your corner man is because they're going to see things and see things that you're not going to be able to see from the outside looking in while you're in the inside looking out.
Okay.
It doesn't always pan out to that. So you have to get your vision like your coach's vision while you're in there.
Right.
That's the key as a fighter. So you be able to see the same thing that he's seeing. So, when they're talking to you, they may say, hey, throw him with the left hit the body or, step off, set him up with shots. And, how you set a guy up with shots, everything comes off your jab.
Right.
And then you may think you're making moves kind of like basketball or football, you playing moves out on them. Let me go this way and come back this way. I know he's going to do this, and I can capitalize on him that way. And then you can make him have a very long night, and you can have a win-win situation.
Win-win. Yeah. Hey, I want to. It takes me back for some reason. Again, professional boxer Larry Hitman Pryor. I read an article a couple years back on a wide receiver. I'm sure you're familiar with him. A National Football League. He's a big star in the NFL. Actually, with the Arizona Cardinals now. DeAndre Hopkins. His mom is actually blind, and if you read the story up on that, we can't get into details now. We'll run out of time, but it always surprised me she never, with her being blind, she'd always sit in the first row where the touchdown zone was. Every time he would score a touchdown when he used to play with the Houston Texans, he would give her that ball. And the connection they had, Larry, I read that every time that he went up to her in a stadium full of, I don't know, 40, 50,000 fans, she knew that he scored a touchdown and he was coming over to give her that ball. She didn't even know, obviously she couldn't see, she was blind, but she knew. They had that connection. She knew right away that was her son coming up to her, handing her that football after he scored a touchdown. So when you're in the ring and your mom is out there, does that provide any extra motivation for you? It feels like that you're backing your family, that you have to win for them, or does every fight feel the same?
Oh, they're always a backup. They're
Right.
always a great support, and they're always, because I work hard not just for myself, but for my family too.
That's right.
My
Right.
kids, and I want to be able to bless my kids, and change my family name.
Right.
And so it's always great to have them there, and they're always motivation to me. If they're there, if they can make it, if they can't make it at the time, but I always see their faces in the crowd no matter what. And it gives me that the motivation of, wanting your family to be better.
Right.
And to do things better, what gives me that drive to wanting to go out and make a success life and to be a world champion as well in the sport as many other champions have became.
And that's great. And you can't go wrong with that motivation. It sounds like you're a family man, and that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, big time. And before we close out, I just want to let everybody know I am signed a 3-year deal with PBC, which is Premier Boxing Champions, which is all through Al Heyman and all of them, Floyd. My man inspired them.
Oh, congratulations.
That was my first contract fight that I had 3 weeks ago.
Wow, well, congratulations. And I know Ryan says the same thing. Go ahead and congratulate him.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I tell you, before we wrap it up, Larry, how about preview of November? What's to come in November? Who is this that you'll be fighting in November? Have you figured out your opponent yet?
The guy's name, hold on, I'm gonna look it up for you real quick.
All right, that's fine. Take your time there.
This gentleman, he really isn't no a threat, as what you would call it. To me, he's just it's a guy. It's a builder. Every fight is a serious fight, regardless if they're a big name opponent to a little name opponent.
Right.
Because everybody that you fight can be they're actually like I said, that one punch can change the name of the fight. Anybody can do it. And it happens. If you look at John Larice, there's as far Anthony Joshua, the Mexican heavyweight. He was the first heavyweight Mexican to actually be a heavyweight champion. And he done it by beating Anthony Joshua.
Wow.
I'm not for sure if you're familiar with him.
Yeah, no, not too familiar.
Yeah, he's actually one of the icons of boxing. He's from London. I think it's from London.
Okay.
Cross seas, but was the undefeated fighter at that time. And I can't find his name. I'm trying to. You can always look me up on BoxRec, BoxRec.com.
Okay.
And go to the search box and type in Larry Pryor. And it'll tell you my fights. It'll tell you my record. It'll tell you everybody that I fought, where I fought.
Wow.
And if and how they won, and the type of recognition and my rankings. It tells you everything on BoxRec. I don't see it up there yet. I don't think they posted up there exactly yet. So I'm trying to
Yeah, no, that's fine, man. I mean, it's no worries. I mean, I'm sure that we'll stay in touch with you, and hopefully we'll hear from you again soon. But I tell you, Larry, before we wrap it up here, especially with you being a pro boxer, I have to definitely bring this gentleman up. Celebrate. He's significant, one of the most significant and celebrated figures of the 20th century, and as one of the greatest boxers of all time. I'm sure you know who that is. That's Muhammad Ali. And the most famous quote, Larry, and I had to ask you this, obviously, since you're in that boxing career for 20-some years. This quote, just an everyday citizen walking on the road, this quote has a lot of different meanings to different people, but with you specifically in boxing, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. What does that mean when you hear that?
Well, that good old saying, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. That means you want to be able to move like a feather in there.
Right.
As what Muhammad Ali done. His lateral movement was great. It took me it took me some years to get my lateral movement to where it's at.
Right.
Literally from running backwards, 8 miles to 10 miles, running backwards on a trip. And the sting like a bee, you want your jabs and your punches to come off crisp.
Okay.
And you always want them to be snappy, kind of like a bee. A bee, when it stings you, is quick.
Right.
He hits you and he's gone.
Right.
And he leaves his damage there.
Right.
That's kind of like what that saying is with Muhammad Ali. When I sting you, it's going to be like a bee. It's going to leave it swelling. It's going to show its marks. And then I'm going to float out on you to where you're not even going to see me coming.
Right.
Or you're not going to be able to see me what my next moves are, or even try to get to me. He was a very hard guy to hit. And one of my other favorite fighters that in the sport was Pernell Whitaker. That's actually who Floyd Mayweather fights like.
Ah, okay. All right, well, I tell you what, I might float like a butterfly, Larry, but I tell you, you won't ever catch me stinging like a bee because I won't be caught in that. I don't know about Ryan. I won't be caught in that ring when you're in there. That's for sure. So, hey, man, we appreciate the time, man. Like I said, I hope to stay in touch with you. And, again, thank you for calling in.
Hey, thank y'all for having me, and this is great, and it's been a blessing. And just kind of give everybody a heads up, I'm working on a gym.
Okay.
I actually have a gym right now. You can Google it.
Uh-huh.
My website's up, but I don't have a building. I'm actually looking for a building, but it's called Hawks Workout Gym.
That's right. You're opening your own gym, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm working on getting that done. Just working on some things to get that. I wanna start recruiting a lot of amateur fighters or anybody that wants to really do competing
Right.
or that's to do to get in shape. I want to be there to help out and give back and give people some new knowledge about sports.
Well, I tell you, maybe when when it goes full circle and you can get the place set up and in order, we might call you back again if you don't mind. Maybe to bring the cameras down there and you can walk us around the interview and have an actual interview with cameras down there. So that would be nice to talk to you again.
Absolutely, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
All right, man. Well, again, we appreciate it and keep us updated on your November fight. And hopefully Ryan and I don't know because the corona concerns, but hopefully we plan on being there. So we'll keep in contact with you.
I got you, and I do got some people going, so I'm not really for sure. Remember I was telling you, I'm probably going to have to get a passenger van or
Right.
I'm going to have to start looking into rent some charter buses out
Yeah.
to go to the fights with me every time I fight.
Right. I know it's high cost, but I tell you what, a limousine wouldn't look bad pulling up in front of that building.
Oh, man, I know it. It would have been great. I couldn't wait to see y'all pull up in it.
That's right. We'll be there with suits and the shades and everything, looking like Rick Ross hopping out of the limo.
I know it. Come to the fights, right? The only stars come to the fight.
That's right. Hey, we appreciate all your time, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
I got you, and thank y'all. Y'all have a great day, and thank y'all for having me.
All right, you two stay safe.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. So, Ryan, there he was. Larry Hitman Pryor, his second day of interviews. And, again, the goal of this show to bring people on that are obviously consistent. Holly reached on that. They're consistent in their career, in their sport that they play. But now Larry Pryor, another perfect example of he gives the younger generation motivation. You know, it feels like the younger generation want to reach out to him. What an inspiration.
Yeah, and he talked about how he wants to open his own gym and give back to his community and help the younger generation out. And just like Holly, she cared about her family, and Larry talked a little bit about his family as well and how his family means so much to him and how he wants to support his family and put them in the best position possible.
Yeah. Well, you see, Holly, she said she's so busy traveling with her children, to their sporting events, of course, 3 children. But then, again, Larry, what a wonderful thing. I mean, to open up a gym, right? Did he say local, I believe?
Yeah, local.
Oh, it was local, yeah. So to open up a gym like that, because a lot of these athletes, they could just, people like Holly and Larry, they could say, okay, my career's done, that's it. I'm done,
Yeah.
I'm going to sit on the couch and eat my Cheetos. No, I'm just kidding. But, they could just say, all right, that's a wrap. I've done my career. I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. But they're not, they move on to the next chapter of their life, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, they continue and want to help their community and give back to the youth.
So that's it. For all of us, Studio 6A, we will be back for, what was it, episode? I can't even keep track now, Ryan.
I believe this was episode 12, so
would it be 13? Possibly 13. We're not too sure, but the next episode, we're going to preview the NBA Finals. And Ryan, that features LeBron James and the Lakers, and then who was it? Jimmy Butler?
Jimmy Butler and the Heat.
And the Miami Heat. So I tell you, what a matchup that would be. And I know you had the Heat coming out on top, but of course I have the Lakers. So we're going to sit down and debate that just like who? Stephen A?
Yes. Yeah.
Just like Stephen A. We won't get as loud, though. We promise. Not a lot of hollering. So, hey, for all of us here, we're going to wrap things up. Studio 6A, it's been a pleasure talking to Larry Pryor. Again, thank you to the Hitman. For all of us, Sean Tin, producer Austin Anita. I'm Phil Vocera.
And I'm Ryan Renner.
Saying a good night from Maryland. We'll see you next time.
This interview on Listen Up with Phil and Rye has been brought to you by Dempseys Grille in Middletown, Maryland, and by Sportsland, your complete team outfitter.